From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, Bauchi civil servants explore secondary income sources to augment earnings. The National Emergency Management Agency warns of impending flood in 13 states, 50 communities. And away from Nigeria, Tuareg rebels claim control of northern Mali town after weeks of fighting. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News. I'm Amina Yuguda. Civil servants in Bauchi have emphasized the need for public workers to find secondary sources of income to survive the rising cost of living in Nigeria. They were speaking to Trust TV's Adamu Imam on the need to diversify revenue sources to sustain their living cost following the current economic pressure on Nigerians in the country.
For some public servants in Bauchi State, the Nigerian economy and its uncertainties place a huge burden on public workers not to only be productive in their workplaces, but also think outside the revenue of the services to survive the economic upheaval that dots the Nigerian landscape.
Whether you like it or not, you have to look for plan B. You must go to do the work as normal, and at the same time you have to look for another way to acquire money just to sustain your life.
People are living from hand to mouth, are eating from hand to mouth, because the economy of the country generally have sent very wrong signals in which people, a lot of houses usually used to spend days without having food on their table.
One has to devise a means of earning livelihood. The salary is not yet coming. Some that is even coming is not sufficient for them because the cost of materials have increased. So therefore, as a worker or a public servant, you need to have a means that you can be able to survive. Surviving means you have to drive another way of source of income.
They encourage others to think beyond white-collar jobs, which are growing leaner with every passing day, adding that to survive the present economy, one needs to have multiple income sources.
If you are hungry, how will you even discharge your primary responsibility in the office? You can't do it. It's not even possible. So I'm even advising my fellow civil servants to look for a plan B, to look for another side business.
Necessity is the father of invention. So once you are into something that you believe it is necessity for your life, you have to invent, you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, you have to create so many ways to ensure that you sustain your livelihood.
They, however, advise Nigerian youths to pursue education and venture into business because life nowadays, they insisted, is meaningless without business. Adamu Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, says 13 states and 50 communities, mainly up north, are likely to witness heavy rains that may lead to flooding between September 13th and 17th. The Lagos Territorial Coordinator of NEMA, Ibrahim Farinloye, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday in Lagos. Farinloye listed the states likely to be affected to include Kano, Kebbi, Katsina, Niger, Kwara, Adamawa, Yobe, Gombe and Jigawa. He added that due to the rise in the water levels of rivers Benue and Niger, communities along the two rivers up to Bayelsa advised to take precautionary measures in the coming days. Now, as part of efforts to reduce boat mishaps in the country, the Association of Inland Water Transporters in Taraba State have banned journeys and overloading in all the jetties across the state. The acting state chairman of the association, Jidda Mayoreneo, disclosed this in an interview on Wednesday. He said the move is to protect lives and property of hundreds of passengers that use boats to travel to their towns and villages in the state. According to him, overloads and night journeys are the major cause of boat accidents. Jidda said some boat drivers ferry as many as 60 passengers and their luggage, a situation he said may lead to boats capsizing and many dying. He further said that because nighttime rescue is difficult, it is safer to avoid night journeys, especially since it is common for boats to hit objects that can cause accidents due to low visibility. Earlier, we spoke to the Lagos Territorial Coordinator of the National Emergency Management Agency, Ibrahim Farinloye. He explained the agency's flood alert.
NEMA is it's a federal agency and is responsible to alert and mobilize resources to respond to any distress and that. Yes. All these possible eviction, possible evacuation of threatened communities is very possible. And we are working on one scenario case. And one scenario case is possibly prediction says whether with all assurances or 50% assurances that this incident might happen. For it to happen and issue the public statement, it had coordinated activities and alerts. The agency has spoken with various stakeholders at the grassroots, the community level, local government level, and the state level. So all these structures are the two tiers of government. They are fully prepared and they are monitoring the situations. All what we need to do is to give them regular update because of the resources available in predictions. At the federal level and international level, we have agencies who feed us with early warning alert. And once we receive it and we analyze it, definitely we. So the possibility of evacuation is very possible. And if at worst it happens, we have various facilities across various communities to evacuate distressed, threatened, vulnerable people to those facilities. When you talk of boat mishaps, we have detected lots of gaps in the sense that some of the operators are not adhering to safety precautions. Some of them are also overloading their facilities, as well as inadequate information application for operating such things. When there is rise of flood water, it goes into the inland waterways, it goes all over. But the problem of operators is how to get money quick, irrespective of what the consequences of operating at a very dangerous level is. So what NEMA is presently doing is working with National Inland Waterways as well as Marine Police to take necessary precautions. Whoever is operating without adequate measure. For instance, there is a regulation where no boat operators should work before 6 a.m. and they must stop working before 6 p.m. But some of them are not complying with this, and adequate measures is being done by the lead agency, which is National Inland Waterways.
And that was Ibrahim Farinloye, the NEMA Territorial Coordinator, giving us more information about the flood alert. Now, the House of Representatives on Wednesday refuted allegations by the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, that lawmakers were giving 100 million naira as palliatives by the executive arm of government. Spokesman of the House, Akin Rotimi, said this while reacting to a statement credited to the National Assistant General Secretary of the NLC, Christopher Onyeka, adding that the allegation is baseless and devoid of any factual accuracy. Rotimi argued that transparency and truth in public discourse is necessary for a functioning democracy. He asserts that the NLC scribe lied in his claim that National Assembly members were giving 100 million naira as palliatives. The statement noted that in less than 100 days of the 10th Assembly, the Parliament has demonstrated its commitment to the welfare of Nigerian workers and all Nigerians. He said the lawmakers have also consistently advocated for the executive to expedite palliatives for vulnerable Nigerians, as well as added their voices to the call for an immediate review of the minimum wage. The House urged the NLC to see members of the National Assembly as partners rather than adversaries. Itodo Daniel is a National Assembly correspondent. He joins us via telephone to speak on the issue. Itodo, can you tell us a bit more about this back and forth between the House and, of course, the Labour Congress?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Trust TV. Yeah, the issue at stake, the reaction coming from the spokesperson of the representative, Honorable Akin Rotimi Jr., is in response to a statement credited to the Nigerian Labour Congress. A statement earlier taken by a national daily quoted Mr. Christopher Onyeka, who is said to be the Assistant National Secretary of the Nigerian Labour Congress, was quoted as saying that the National Assembly, each member of the National Assembly got 100 million naira as palliative from the federal government. And the claim is coming on the backdrop of the fact that the Nigerian Labour Congress is paying that aftermath of the removal of fuel subsidy, the federal government has not been forthcoming in providing the needed palliatives for the suffering Nigerian workers. And to them, the Onyeka is saying that statement that while the federal government only gave few bags of rice for dozens of citizens to share, he alleged that 100 million naira each was given to each members of the National Assembly, and he described that as an insult to the suffering Nigerian workers and the generosity of Nigerian citizens. And this claim is coming against the backdrop of the earlier ultimatum. You recall that the NLC had earlier issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government, after which they said that they will embark on an indefinite strike. The ultimatum was issued on the 1st of September, meaning that by the 22nd of this month, the ultimatum would have expired. So the reaction of the NLC was coming against the backdrop that the federal government appears to have abandoned any kind of negotiation or do anything to ameliorate the plight of the suffering citizens. Hence, the analogy of comparing what was being given out to workers and Nigerian citizens as palliative to what he claimed to have been given to federal lawmakers, which he said was 100 million naira. Of course, how he got that figure is still yet to be clear. And then another controversy is that my finding also indicate that contrary to what was actually reported, that the statements were by Onyeka Christopher, who was referred to as Assistant National Secretary, I learned that he is actually a personal assistant to the National President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, that is Comrade Joe Ajaero. So there is a controversy there, whether the allegation of 100 million naira is coming as an official position of the Nigerian Labour Congress or is coming from the personal assistant NLC in its own capacity as a personal assistant. So that is yet to be clear. Maybe the NLC may need to come out to clear if it is their official position and how they got to I have the information about how each member of the National Assembly got 100 million naira. However, the spokesperson's reaction actually is that the position of the House on the allegation is that no members of the National Assembly took 100 million naira as palliative, as claimed by Onyeka in that statement. In fact, he said that the claim by Onyeka was malicious. He said that it was dubious and that it was done in bad faith because there's no iota of truth in what he has said entirely about the National Assembly.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Itodo, for that explanation about the fracas and back and forth between the Labour and, of course, the National Assembly. That was Itodo Daniel, who's a National Assembly correspondent, who was speaking to us about the allegation of 100 million naira being handed over to the National Assembly members for palliatives while citizens are left wanting. A week after its two-day nationwide warning strike, the organised labour has threatened to begin an indefinite strike if the federal government fails to meet its demands. The Nigerian Labour Congress has given a 21-day ultimatum which will expire in a week's time. The workers' union said the proposed strike is necessary following the failure of the federal government to provide palliatives due to hardships because of the fuel subsidy removal. The Nigeria Labour Congress said the industrial action, which may commence any day from next week, would lead to an indefinite shutdown of commercial and economic activities across the country. The Assistant General Secretary of the NLC, Christopher Onyeka, said the federal government was wrong to share a bag of rice to a dozen citizens while reportedly giving 100 million naira to each member of the National Assembly. Amongst other demands, the NLC and the Trade Union Congress are asking for wage awards, implementation of palliatives, tax exemptions and allowances to the public sector workers, and a review of the minimum wage. Even though the federal government made a commitment to restructure the framework for engagement with organised labour, the 8-week time frame for the conclusion of the process expired in August with no action taken. Now, some students of the University of Lagos hit the streets on Tuesday to protest the increment in tuition fees of the institution. This is the second protest in 1 week by the UNILAG students, who are joined by colleagues from other universities. The protesters' chants were centrally on the need for the school to reduce the fees. The students were accompanied by men of the Nigerian Police Force and those of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. Some of the students said they will continue to protest until their school fees are returned to status quo. They're also asking the federal government to invest proceeds from the subsidy removal on education rather than allow increment in school fees. The UNILAG authorities in July announced a hike in tuition fees for new and returning undergraduate students and hinged the move on what it described as the prevailing economic realities. Now, authorities of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, in Osun State have increased tuition for the 2023 and 2024 academic session. The decision to increase fees was taken by the Senate of the university at its emergency meeting on Tuesday, 12 September 2023. Previously, returning students paid between 19,000 and 31,000 naira, while new students paid between 70 and 100,000 naira. But now, new students in the faculties of arts, law and humanities will pay about 151,000, while returning students of the same faculties will pay about 89,000 naira. The public relations officer of the university, Abiodun Olarinwaju, while confirming the development, said the new fees are just for one academic session. Now, schools across Nasarawa State have resumed for the 2023-24 session, with academic activities yet to begin in earnest. Students, parents and teachers have been speaking about their expectations for the new term. Trust TV's Abubakar Abdullahi sent in this report as presented from our studios.
Though not all students have resumed for academic activities, a significant number of teachers were on ground in most schools visited by Trust Television. In one of the schools visited, Trust TV witnessed that lessons were ongoing as students were seen either listening, asking, or responding to questions from the teachers. Some of these students speak.
And my expectation from teachers is to make sure that we learn well and have knowledge of every subject the teachers teach.
And my expectation from my teachers is to impart qualitative education which will help us to be future leaders and nation builders tomorrow.
The students who appreciated the effort of their teachers also challenged them to be role models to them through their behavior. Samuel Kagmut is the Vice Principal Government Secondary School, Lafia East. He confirmed the resumption of students and teachers in the school and challenged parents to send their children who are yet to resume to school.
From all indications, staffs and students are on ground. We have started our classes immediately without any waste of time. And we urge parents that they should inform their ward that are still at home to resume to school because lessons has been commenced in earnest.
Vice Principal advised the students to appreciate the efforts of their parents by putting in their best in their academic pursuit. A parent who also speaks on the resumption said the removal of full subsidy by the government has affected their fee payment plans.
Children have resumed school, and as parents, we are expected to pay their school fees. But because of subsidy removal challenge, which affect all economic activities, people have no money in their hands, and we parents are facing serious challenge in payment of school fees. What remains for us is that we resort to praying on daily basis for God intervention.
He called on governments to look into the plight of the people and introduce policies and programs that will reduce the hardship on the citizens.
Primary and secondary schools in Delta State have resumed for the 2023-24 session, with stakeholders appealing to the federal government to invest more in education for the good of the country. Jonathan Awanwai visited some schools and now reports.
Happy to be back, these students and pupils seems to be saying as they return to school after a long holiday. Some were visibly eager to begin learning in earnest as they clean their classrooms.
I feel so happy because it has been long I saw my friends, and I'm happy to see them now, and some of the teachers that I like. I'm happy today because I'm here to learn.
I've been preparing for so long. I've been praying for school. Some people that went on holiday, they didn't come back. Some were sick, some died, some anything, accidents, but I thank God that my life, I'm here and I'm happy to be in school once again.
For the teachers, it was a pleasant surprise to see a significant number of students in school in the first week of resumption.
Well, on the first day, we call it orientation day. What do we call orientation? We try to bring the children who have been on holidays for such a long time back to start thinking education. Apart from that, we try to make sure they get their new school books for the new classes. More allocation should be given to education. You can see that the level of education is like we normally say, is deteriorating because of funds. Most times we talk about funding. So they should give more allocation and give top priority to education.
They want government to prioritize education for speedy development of Nigeria, as countries usually develop as much as their education affords them. Jonathan Awanye, Trust TV News, Asaba.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after this break, changing face of Asaba town with solid waste. More news when we return.
That's right. You too could be one of the 20 Zenith Bank customers that will win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from June 1st, 2023 until May 31st, 2024 in the Zenith Better Life Promo 3. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Live the better life with Zenith Bank.
That's great.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the News Hour on Trust TV. Here's a recap of some of our top stories. Bauchi civil servants explore secondary income sources to augment earnings. National Emergency Management Agency warns of impending flood in 13 states, 50 communities. Now to more news stories. Residents of Zangon Kabukawa, a community in Patagarawa local government area of Katsina, want the state government to provide basic social amenities. Abdullah Yamadi spoke to the residents on life's challenges.
This is the only access road leading to Zangon Kabukawa village, which since the return of democracy in 1999 has been without basic social amenities. The situation leaves the residents stagnated. For instance, the community has been without school, clean water, healthcare facility, electricity and other basic necessities despite their closeness to Patagarawa town, the local government headquarters and the state capital, Katsina. These residents at least need a primary school for their children, access road to transport farm produce, and water for animals and domestic purposes for now. Zangon Kabukawa has a population of over 5,000 people and is without even a school. As you can see, we have to send our children to Patagarawa Primary School. Our greatest challenge is this stream, which often prevents our children from attending when it rains. This overhead tank has been there without a functional borehole. An attempt to provide the village with water has not seen the light of the day. How do we get here despite our numerous challenges? Anyway, you are welcome. Please help us to tell Governor Diko Umaru Rada to come to our rescue. He is our last hope. The residents believe democracy has failed to change their fortunes for the better after decades of sufferings. Abdullahi Ismail Ahmadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Travelers plying the Benin-Onitsha-Warri Expressway have decried bad roads in Edo State. The roads remain deplorable with implications for the economy and the well-being of the people. Hamid Oyegbade, who was in Benin, files this report.
The traffic gridlock became unbearable as vehicles plying the Benin-Onitsha-Warri Expressway were grounded to a halt, leaving travelers to groan. The travelers lamented that they wasted several hours in the traffic, which disrupted their journey and thwarted their plans. They also said that the bad condition of the road exposed people to serious security risks, especially at night.
Obvious. Some people will sometimes spend 3 days here, sometimes 4 days. As you can see now, there's no road, there's no way you can go. So it's a very annoying situation in the country. Very, very annoying.
See our road. See Johnny where they go. Since morning, Johnny was supposed to take me 2 hours 30 minutes. Now it's almost 6 hours. The 6 hours I don't hang for road. My motor don't sing for poto. I beg, as I talk out like this, I must talk, and the way it take be for me, you don't hide me.
Our federal government, the road is bad. People they spend 2 hours, 4 hours. Some motor they destroy. The road is not good.
They need to come out and look for what is happening, because sometimes we spend 5 hours here at a spot. We can't go anywhere. At the end of the day, sometimes we spend a night, we spend a day here. So at least let the federal government come out and help us. We need the help. Let the councillor, let the chairman, let them go out and tell them what is happening. Let them come here and see how people are suffering. For a whole day, you spend 5-6 hours at a spot. It's not fair. Let the federal government and let the state government also come out to do something. I believe with them, we can be free. Sometimes they rob us on this road.
Some residents lamented that the bad condition of the intrastate roads in Edo State is making life difficult for them and wanted this addressed. Amid Ojegbade, Trust TV News.
A husband, Surajuddin Olasinde, has narrated how his wife, Mistura, and his 2 daughters, Hawa and Fatima, were kidnapped around Galadima district of the Federal Capital Territory. Olasinde, a staff of the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Authority, said the incident occurred last Friday, September 8th, when his wife and children were driving home in their Toyota Highlander from Garki to Starwood Estate, where they live. He said residents of the area called the divisional police station at Galadimawa immediately, and the DPO, Jerry Cole, led a team of officers to comb the bushes. Olasinde, who arrived in Abuja on Saturday, said their captors called his brother-in-law to demand 100 million naira in ransom. A young lady in Kaduna is demanding justice against a commercial tricycle rider whom she alleges raped her while taking her to an agreed destination. The suspected rapist she said threatened her life before sexually assaulting her. Trust TV's Bello has more on this report.
Aisha said she took the tricycle from a bus stop to Nnamdi Azikiwe Expressway, popularly known as Bakirwa, but along the way, the suspect diverted his way to the scene of the alleged rape.
I stopped him on the road around 9 p.m. and asked him to take me to Ibakinrowa. When he started moving, he pleaded with me that he would deliver a message somewhere. Then he would take me to my destination.
She said the tricycle rider threatened her with knife before raping her.
He stopped and entered one garage and later came out with knife in his hand and instructed me to enter a bus parked in the garage or else he would kill me. I entered screaming it was already late and was about to rain. He held my throat. I was begging him, but he would not listen and threatened to kill me. He then raped me.
The suspect Aminu Sani confirmed that the victim was his passenger. He narrates his own side of the story. I met her on the road and she stopped and asked me to take her to Bakirwa. When we started going, she asked me whether I am married. I asked her why, and she said she had a quarrel with her parent that she wants to pass the night at my place. A security man, also accused of conniving with Aminu to rape the victim, speaks. He came with the lady and told me that she has misunderstanding with her parent. He asked me to allow her sleep in our place, which I agreed. I was trying to change my clothes. When I came back, I saw her in a terrible mood. I demanded to know what happened, and she told me that he raped her, and she has never done such a thing. I removed my clothes in her front, but I didn't do anything to her. The family of the victim has reported the matter to the Rigasa Community Security Outfit, who arrested the suspect and handed them to the police for further investigation.
Tana ihu ina bai tsaya ko ina ba sai a gareji.
We heard the report that a lady was raped at a private parking lot, and this is the knife he threatened her with before raping her. He told us that this is not the first time they have been doing it with the said security guard at the parking lot. We are handing them over to the police. Aisha and her family are now demanding justice against the suspected rapist of their daughter as police investigate the case. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
Operatives of the Imo State Command of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, on Wednesday intercepted and arrested 6 pregnant females suspected to be running a baby factory in the state. Trust TV's Ajibade Awufeso, who's at the NDLEA state headquarters, reports that the arrest followed intelligence on the activities of the suspects.
According to the state NDLEA, the operatives, while on a motorized patrol along the Aba-Owerri Expressway, intercepted these 5 child trafficking victims who run a baby factory. The arrest came at a time where they were being relocated to a safer area in Ikenegbu from a hideout in Naze, all in Owerri. The oldest among them is Divine Admonye, who said she is 8 months pregnant and confessed that this is her second time of giving birth and selling the child. How much you say the person go pay you?
She not call someone like she's blocking me. She not pay me any amount. But she said that after when they take care of me, I'm going to give you. We talk. But after they made me, I'm going to baby that nothing will happen to me. Then we talk about how much price that you give me before I will give it and help myself.
One of them that caught the attention of many is 15-year-old Choma Emmanuel. She said she was impregnated by her elder sister's husband and in turn asked her to go into hiding to deliver the baby. Opera Gift on her part said she separated with her husband and ventured into the act since there was no other means of survival for her.
My sister's husband got me pregnant. When my sister got to know, she sent me out of her husband's house. And I'm an orphan. I don't know I don't have any help. That's why I go to this group to them to help me out. I have a child before now, but I separated with my husband following the discovery that he is an outcast. And when I asked him what do we do with the baby I'm carrying, he said I should do whatever I like with it. And I don't have any other choice but to do this.
NDLEA authorities said earlier interviews with the suspects revealed that all the victims do not even know the men that got them pregnant. They said the victims will be handed over to the relevant authorities for proper investigation and consequent arrest of others. Ajibade Awofeso, Trust TV News, Owerri.
There has been indiscriminate dumping of refuse on the popular Nebesi Road in Asaba, the Delta State capital. Jonathan Awanwai reports that the trend is worrisome for residents.
Nebesi, a major road in Asaba, is no longer a good sight. The road has suddenly become a refuse dump of some sort, with bags of refuse now a common sight. It is a situation that has become a source of worry for some residents who now worry that the practice could cause an epidemic if not addressed immediately.
So with the way where this thing then it not make sense. And if they not take any action between now and weekend, I think Asaba go dirty.
That dirty where they are now, the dirty no good because as they there now, the environment is very dirty and it's smelling everywhere.
Put these things in place, bring measures so that whatever that throws can or any dirt outside it should be fined for it.
On the part of government, it is not for lack of thoughtfulness, but the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Dr. Mini Oseji, says that government and the waste evacuators are having some challenges.
Foremost, it started with residents who did not have subscription with the private sector participants. So rather than paying between 1,005 and 2,005 so that the private sector participants can come and cut away their refuse, they chose to come out in the night and go and dump it.
She, however, suggests ways residents can mitigate the situation in the meantime.
So before I dump my waste and keep it for the private sector participants responsible for cutting away my own household waste, I first remove all the plastic bottles and I recycle the plastic bottles. We have a number of plastic recycling companies. I also remove paper, I remove cartons, and all those things. You open a packet of cereal, I remove it. So I pack all those things and I store them, and when they have reached a sizable quantity, I take them to the integrated waste management facility, and there I put it, and they actually give me remuneration. So the question now is, how do I get every resident in Asaba to do this while we are trying to deal with the problem of ensuring the dump site is functional?
It is expected that the eyesore is not allowed to linger in the interest of the people's health, as cleanliness is said to be next to godliness. Jonathan Awanye, Trust TV News, Asaba.
In the face of the current economic situation in Nigeria, there have been renewed calls in Benue State for youth to embrace skills acquisition and entrepreneurship. With the federal government already wooing investors into Nigeria, the youth have been advised to ensure they have goods and services to offer when that time comes. Jimmy Edzande spoke to a cross-section of Benue residents in Makurdi.
The report to them weekend.
The idea of waiting for white-collar jobs has left thousands of high school graduates stranded on the streets, thinking of how and where to survive. These residents blame that state of unproductiveness on poor academic mentoring in Nigeria and said this is a time to correct the mistakes of the past.
You discover that certificate is not working any longer. Besides that, that is why nobody should go to school with the mindset that after graduation, I will come back and I will be employed. To call on all the men, every man worldwide, that we need to continue to be man enough. And particularly in Nigerian situation that we find ourselves now, economically, things are very difficult.
Because the topic today on entrepreneurship, that is the way to go. Even without the certificate, that you can now augment yourself to do one thing or the other. Today is not all about the certificate, but what you have upstairs.
The message of entrepreneurship is for humanity, for man, woman, for states, for governments, anybody who is interested in the development of the human race.
I told the young coming youth that there is no business that can give you money like farming. Politics is a waste of time to myself. I believe in farming more than any other business because there is no business that will give you what farm will give you, as far as I'm concerned.
While a greater percentage of the Benue youth still wait for white-collar jobs for survival, these opinion leaders are concerned that the best way to go is to think in the line of self-development. Jimmy Azandi, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
According to statistics, of the 15.23 million spent by air travelers in 2021, 13 million were domestic passengers, while about 2 million were international passengers. This represents a growth of 43.41% and 57% respectively when compared to the previous year. However, stakeholders at the Aviation Africa 2023 meeting said when viewed against the population of Nigeria, these figures are low. Hence, the need to address this and other issues that will boost the sector in Africa. Noel Sampson has more.
Air travel is the fastest means for long distances. This is because it cuts down on the time it will take to travel by car or train. Despite challenges in the sector, operators like Rwanda Air, amongst others, say they will remain in the skies while finding ways to address them. This stand is one of the main purposes of the conference, which seeks to find ways to move the Nigeria aviation sector forward.
We should have been flying daily to Nigeria by now. Even prior to this situation, we were serving more flights than we are right now. So we're being limited by exactly what you mentioned because of this. But we are finding ways and means in the meanwhile, and we really hope that this situation will come to subside, such that we can operate at our full capacity, which I believe is very much needed because the Nigerian market is plenty, as you say. There is plenty in terms of the demand. Concerns were raised by IATA concerning funds repatriation, and so we are not immune from that. We have our own fair share of that. But the fact is that we've been able to navigate with it in spite of that, even in the times when some airlines pulled out of Nigeria. Rwanda has continued to remain, and because of the value we place on our Nigerian market, we've continued to support this market, even during those tough times.
People in aviation tend to talk to people in aviation. I need to talk to Tourism Board. I need to talk to National Planning. I need to talk to Central Bank. I need to talk to Finance. I need to talk to NMPs. These are all organizations that are not necessarily aviation organizations, but their activities directly influence the efficiency and success of aviation. So we must all work together in tandem to really achieve just a portion of the potentials in Nigeria.
The issue of aviation sector in Nigeria is funding. The sector, you have Bank of Industry, you have Bank of Agric, you don't have Bank of Aviation. And today, like you heard the DG did say, take Emirates Airline out of Dubai, Dubai will go down immediately. That is how important the aviation sector is to any country. So until the government begin to take aviation business serious, until the government see aviation as a catalyst, that will bring about the leapfrogging or the growth as a whole nation.
The aviation industry is a key contributor to national and global economies, creating job opportunities and stimulating economic activity. Addressing challenges in the sector with Nigeria as a focal point will contribute to a competent workforce that can support the growth and expansion of the industry. Noel Sampson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
ActionAid Country Director Andrew Mamedu wants governments at all levels to seek relevant partnerships to address the high rate of poverty in Nigeria. In a chat with journalists in Abuja, Mamedu said having 133 million people in multi-dimensional poverty in a country of 200 million people does not only call for a major concern, but is a threat to the security of the nation. He calls for interrogation of the recent data from the National Bureau of Statistics, which said that Nigeria's unemployment rate has dropped to 4.1% in the first quarter of 2023.
133 million persons are living in multi-dimensional poverty. Recently, we got a shocking figure, that our unemployment rate has reduce. Poverty is man-made. If it is man-made, all we need to do is, it's about redistribution of our wealth and ensuring that the poorest of the poor is able to be accounted for. There are two things we ask from government. One, the Constitution guarantees that protection of life and property and the welfare of the citizens. Those are the two things we ask from government. Guarantee that to every citizen. Then whatever you want to do is a social contract. So you are there because as citizens we agree for you to be there, and we will hold you accountable. You are not there as Lord and Master. You are there as a public servant.
Now, away from Nigeria, Tuareg rebels in northern Mali say they have seized control of a military camp and posts in the town of Burem after weeks of fighting against the National Army and Wagner mercenaries. Threatening to unravel a 2015 peace deal, Tuesday's capture of Burem, situated between the ancient cities of Gao and Timbuktu by the Tuareg rebel alliance, called the coordination of Azawad movements. This comes as the military consolidated power in two coups in 2020 and 2021 and kicked out French forces and the United Nations peacekeeping mission MINUSMA. CMA spokesperson Mohammed Al-Maulud Ramadan said there have been casualties, but he did not yet know the death toll. Mali's army spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The region has seen a resurgence of tension in recent weeks, triggered in part by the pullout of UN peacekeeping troops, which helped in maintaining a fragile peace. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, on Wednesday said disastrous flooding in Libya has left more than 30,000 people homeless. The figures refer to the particularly hard-hit port city of Derna alone. The UN organization said thousands more have lost their homes in cities in the east of the country after two dams broke in eastern Libya near Derna, sweeping entire neighborhoods into the sea. Some 10,000 people were missing, and according to the administration in the east of the country, more than 5,000 people have died. The IOM has estimated 2,000 were killed and at least 5,000 are missing. And in sports, Nigeria's Desire Oparanozie has announced her retirement from the Super Falcons and club football. The player made the announcement on her verified social media pages on Wednesday. Desire started her career with the Super Falcons in 2010 with 35 caps and 22 goals. She has been to 4 FIFA Women's World Cup, namely 2011, 2015, 2019 and the 2023 World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Her last outing for the Super Falcons was the 2023 FIFA World Cup round of 16 exit to England, and where she lost a penalty kick. The Nigeria Football Federation has mandated its technical committee to hold discussions with Super Falcons head coach Randy Waldrum with a view to extending his contract with the NFF. Waldrum steered the 9-time African champions to the round of 16 at the FIFA Women's World Cup finals in Australia and New Zealand, with the Super Falcons unbeaten in regulation time in any of their 4 matches before a penalty shootout defeat by England. Waldrum signed a 2-year contract with the team in 2021, during which he led them to qualify for the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco and the FIFA Women's World Cup. Playing in Australia, the Super Falcons held Olympic champions Canada to a scoreless draw in Melbourne, defeated co-hosts Australia 3-2 in Brisbane, and were again held scoreless by the Republic of Ireland. In the round of 16, they had the better of the game, but it ended scoreless in regulation and extra time, forcing the encounter into a penalty shootout in which the Super Falcons were second best. With that, we've come to the end of the News Hour on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all our media platforms. Join our YouTube live stream for more news, programs and documentary. I'm Amina Yuguda. Thank you for joining us.
Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.